Hi. So here we are live at the Swampup conference, and with me I have my closest colleague, Tamás. I can't pronounce your surname. Sorry, you had to do it for me.
So my name is Tamás Szelei.
Szelei. I always want to get it to some weird German name with the surname because it's really hard for me to pronounce. Hungarian.
No, it's totally Hungarian.
It's totally Hungarian. That's good. So we have been 2 days at the Swampup conference. That's JFrog's conference, user conference, should you call it, right?
Yeah. I think that's a good description.
Right. So we have seen a lot of talks, a lot of DevOps chatter, and a new terminology called liquid software.
Right. There's a book.
There's a book. We actually got a book each as well about liquid software. So I just wanted to do this small recording and we can talk a bit about what was fun in this conference and what we learned and stuff like that. So what did you think about the conference overall?
I really enjoyed it. The best thing was meeting other users because this is such a niche area. Mm-hmm. And I think about package management every day.
Right.
As you do.
As you do.
And sometimes it feels a bit isolated. It feels like I'm the only one in the world who's doing this because it seems so weird.
No, we know that we are at least two people, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should say that me and Tamás, we are basically the whole build team at Plex. So we work with Artifactory, Jenkins, Conan, all those things. And basically all that was represented here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is amazing that there is this whole conference for things that you find like we are two people for 100 developers at Plex, and it's like, this is the only thing we do, and we are the only ones that are working with it. So it feels very, as you say, it feels super niche, right?
Yeah.
And then there is this whole conference about it.
Yeah, and then you meet people who do the exact same thing. They fight the exact same problem.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So there were 2 days of talks. So the first day we went to the keynotes first, and I'm trying to remember. So first it was the CEO of JFrog, Shlomi, and I don't remember his surname. It's Ben something. It doesn't really matter that much. Anyway, his talk was basically saying hello, and there was not too much to it. Oh, he did a cockpit thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember really. Oh, yeah. So he basically said that in the start we had these really old airplanes that were shitty and they crashed a lot and it was bad. And now how we treated like DevOps and build integration and stuff like that before. And now we have. His analog was that we were just at the sonic boom. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the old plane was when we set up the build servers by hand, then administered everything by hand, and if it broke, you had to go in and fix it manually.
Right. And you couldn't go so fast because you were speed limited, basically.
Exactly. So in the new airplane, which is like a supersonic airplane, we are going faster and we are before the sonic boom.
Yeah, exactly. So his prediction is that we're going to kind of go past the sonic boom, like soon, right?
Yeah.
Like this year or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it was, who was it?
I think the Google talk was next.
Oh, the Google talk. So it was 2 executives from Google. We should actually have the agenda so we know their names because this is terrible. So they basically had a talk. There were 2 guys from Google there who... It was, okay, here we go, agenda. So it was from 2 guys, Sam Ramji and Melody McFessel. Melody McFessel. So Melody McFessel she was the VP, right? The VP of engineering for build tools, basically.
Yeah, something like that.
And he was the product manager for that. So they talked about DevOps at Google and their mind-blowing setup. Yeah. And I think this is pretty well covered, right, on the internet, how Google have this monolithic super repo with all the products checked into one repo, and all the developers are always building everything, and they can do refactors that span the whole thing, right?
Yeah. So they kind of avoid the problems that we have because of the binary compatibility.
Yeah,
But
because
they
they
just rebuild everything.
right. But it's always funny when people are like comparing other things to Google, because that is a company without comparison.
Exactly. This is something that you can do at the scale of Google and with the resources of Google.
Right.
You can just rebuild everything and don't care about binary.
Yeah, and I mean they probably have amazing server systems for doing all that, right? So that was an interesting talk. I liked that. They were funny to listen to, and had a good dynamic between them.
Yeah,
it wasn't boring or anything like that.
Absolutely.
I did feel a bit like, all right, all this is kind of old news. Like there was nothing like. Their developer tools looks really cool, like where they can, live production systems set breakpoints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was pretty nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we moved on. So this next guy, John Willis. What did you think about John?
He's quite a character.
He's quite a character, yeah, that's for sure. So he was talking about the divine and philosophical nature of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And the idea there was that we're doing it wrong. That was the whole thing with his talk, that we're super bad at security, and we're separating out security from DevOps as an extra layer,
Yes.
while it should be one and the same.
Yeah.
Is that a good summation of his talk, you think?
Yeah. He even introduced the term DevSecOps
Exactly.
for this.
Right. Yeah. That was an entertaining talk, mostly because he's a very funny guy.
Yeah.
He's also... I can understand if some people don't like his style.
Yeah.
He's probably an acquired taste. Let's say that.
Yeah,
but
you have to see it to know.
yeah, exactly. So I bet there's tons of talk of John Willis on YouTube. So you can
Go
probably
watch
find
him.
it.
He's
Yeah, he's a special guy for sure. The next one was an interview by the three guys from JFrog: Fred Simon, Yoav Landman, and Baruch Zadogorsky. I'm going to butcher this name so bad. And they were talking about their new book, The Dawn of Liquid Software.
Yep.
I didn't get too much out of that talk, I mean, to be honest. Like, I feel like I need to read the book to really understand what they were...
Yeah, same here. So I felt like that was not very well structured.
No. It was supposed to be, I think...
idea.
Right. It was supposed to be like a Q&A with the authors of the book, but it kind of... I think that if I had read the book before the talk, I would have understood the context a bit more.
Yeah, or maybe if there was a short introduction of
exactly,
the topic,
right?
a few slides before the interview.
Right.
I kind of got the concept in the end, but I'm not sure what I missed because it wasn't very clear.
I think I'll come back in the podcast later when I've read the book. It didn't seem to be a very thick book, so I could probably do that sooner or later. But it's about liquid software, and they're defining that terminology as basically, deploy always, right? That is, it should be a steady stream of deployments and not big drops. And
yeah, exactly. So my understanding is, and I'm surprised that they didn't bring this up, is this is the same kind of deployment that you get from a website when you visit it. There is no version number, there is no concept of updates.
Right.
You just use the software, which may be a website or maybe not, and you will always get the latest version.
Right.
You don't even think in terms of updates.
No, exactly. After that, we had lunch. I must say that the food has been excellent. The whole,
absolutely, yeah.
both the days and the dinner was excellent as well.
Yeah, 5 stars.
I didn't see much. I was super jet lagged after lunch, so I think I fell asleep for a bit. You went to some talk, right?
Yeah.
Which ones did you go and see? Behavioral psychology in software development.
That's right. So this was a talk by.
It's over there.
Where is it? Oh yeah. So Jim Clark.
Yeah.
And he's from Atomist, one of the sponsors of the event. And Atomist is a very interesting product. It is a framework for creating automation right inside Slack. So, for example, you can have an automation that sends a Slack notification when a commit is made, and there's already a button there to create a PR.
Okay. So what's different between the kind of integration that is already existing? Like, this is for you to do your own integration?
Yeah. So this is just an example. They showed other kinds of demos. For example, security tool detecting a vulnerability, and then right there is a button telling you, okay, I can ignore this because I know it doesn't really affect me, or I can apply a fix because this tool knows how to bump the version number of that particular dependency, and it connects to behavioral psychology because of this nudging that you get the right action at the right time. So the buttons are there to take the action when you need to.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I kind of hate most of those Slack apps that bug you for things, but I do also get that if there are easy actions you can do directly and they do the right thing by clicking the button,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't think I mind as much, right?
Yeah, if it's something very very manual that you have to repeat every time you get a certain kind of notification, I can see that being very useful.
Okay, so did you go to, you went to some Kubernetes talk or something as well, right?
Yeah. So this was by Eldad Assis. I'm probably butchering his names.
There's a lot of Israeli names. It should be said that JFrog is an Israeli company, so there is a lot of Israeli names.
And we don't know how to pronounce those.
I'm not good at those names. It's hard, right?
So anyway, I went to this Kubernetes talk, and to preface that, I don't really know what Kubernetes is. I have kind of an idea, but it seems like this is a term that is being thrown around.
I've heard Kubernetes so many times this week or these 2 days, so
it must be important.
It must be important.
Yeah, so I went there, kind of got a general picture about what it is about, and the talk was generally about the transition of JFrog apps to Kubernetes. So they are transitioning to managing their containerized apps in Kubernetes. But at the same time, I also felt this was very very technical and mostly for people already familiar with Kubernetes. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was showing all the various tools and the small details of doing things. Then I, in the middle of it, left the room because it just went over my head. I need to read up on this stuff. Yeah,
talking about things that go over your head, we're going to come to that later. But anyway, so in the evening, there was the gala dinner. First, there was the wine cave reception.
Yep.
That was really nice, but really loud.
Yeah, so this wine cave is shaped in very round way.
Yeah.
And there was like 200 people there, and it was super loud.
So loud, so very loud. I think it came for us. It came at the wrong time because we were having a really good discussion with some of the guys in the Conan community. So it was it felt like we were just wanting to get out of there to have that discussion, right?
Yeah.
But we had some wine, we had some snacks, and then we went to the gala dinner, which served really good food. And the show was a mentalist.
Yeah, Leo
something. You wish. Sushard, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Leo Sushard.
Yeah.
He was great. I really enjoyed that show.
I was blown away.
He was really good. Like Oh, and the reoccurring character here is John Willis that we were talking about.
Excellent.
Because he was asking for a guy, the most skeptical guy he could find in the room.
Yeah, a mean skeptic guy.
Yeah, he wanted a mean skeptic guy, and John Willis, he stepped up.
And he's very, very mean.
Yes, exactly.
At first, he was stealing the show, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was. That was such a funny exchange. And Leo really blew his mind. You could see he was totally not getting it in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So he was really mean. He wanted to break the show.
Right, for sure. And he tried every way. He
tried
did
everything.
right, and Leo was. You can see he's a really good showman. Not only he's good with his tricks, but he's a really good showman as well. So he was able to handle that really well.
Yeah, it was very, very professional. You could tell that there is a lot of experience.
Yeah, for sure. Those good. You can probably find Leo Suchard on YouTube as well. I recommend looking at some of it because it's very entertaining.
Yeah,
so that was a super entertaining show. You just have to go in skeptical. I mean, I think you should go in and just expect a show. Don't try to sit there and just know you're getting fooled. Like, I think that's the kind of right. You have to set that baseline. Like, you're going to be fooled because these guys are super good at it. You're not like a professional guy that do magic tricks and mentalist tricks. You're not going to be able to figure out how he does it. Like, just let it go and enjoy it, right, for what it is.
Yeah, well, for some people, part of the fun is trying to figure it out.
Right, for sure.
And then learning that you can't.
Right.
he plays into that very much.
He definitely does. He was a lot of times poking people for making them try to figure out his tricks and so on. So that went on for a long time, though.
I think it was even longer than planned.
Because
the CEO went on stage
and just said, "Hey, we're just going to
dinner.
Right, we're going to have a very short after party, but come join the after party."
No, and even the CEO missed the time because he said, "Okay, it is recommended to end the party by 10:30," and it was already 11 p.m. by
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, it was late, so I think both you and I was pretty hammered after that, so we went to bed, both of us. But there was an after party. I heard that it was, pretty short. And
and let's not forget the dinner. It was
really good, really good. Yep, we had some kind of steak and some kind of fish on both, and that was good. And then the dessert was good as well. The wine was not that good, but it's decent. Anyway, Friday, breakfast, and then keynote time again. Yes. So first keynote by J Frog's Pierre, VP of PR. She made a semi-funny joke about the mentalist the day before and tried to do some of his tricks. I don't know if that landed that well. She's not as good as a showman as he was, but...
Yeah, I think part of the problem was that if you try and replicate that, you are standing in his shoes, then you have to match him.
Right.
And that's hard.
It was kind of cute, though. And then... she talked about, I can't even really remember what she talked about, to be honest.
So there was an advertisement in 2 parts.
Right, that's right.
And they played this on the big displays.
Right. So they was setting up a product announcement. So that was the big thing. Like she was, the format what she was basically pitching that we're going to see their newest product after the keynotes.
Yes.
So the last keynote of the morning was the product announcement. So after that, we went into a talk with one of the evangelists at AWS. And man, I have to say, like that talk totally went 300 miles over my head.
Yeah, same here.
That was like he was talking about serverless tidal wave, I think he called it.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, this is the idea of not running your server, like not running server software as like an application that you deploy to a server and run it.
You deploy our functions.
You deploy functions instead. And a function does, a very specific thing, is totally stateless, and, is just handling a specific request.
Yeah.
And you instead like deploy a million functions to Amazon Lambda or something like that. And honestly, I don't know. I feel like an old man in the room saying like, oh, these kids these days and their fancy new features. But I do feel like we're getting to an abstraction level that can't be healthy when it comes to these things. Like, I totally understand. It's really cool technology. The question is, okay, I understand it solves the problem of scaling, because you can scale these functions very well when you have stateless, serverless functions all over the world.
Yes.
But I do feel like sometimes it's trying to fit, like everything is a nail and you have a very big hammer that is your new cool technology, right?
Yeah, well, if you look at this stack, you have like 20 different hammers.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was really hard to understand.
And
like
they all have 3-letter names.
Right. There were so many different... He took up one slide with all the technologies they had for serverless at Amazon, and I was like...
I wanted to take a picture of that because, it was so ridiculous for me. And I also feel like a grumpy old man, even though I'm a bit younger than you. But, my biggest gripe with this is that the good things that you can get from this, you can get otherwise as well.
Yeah.
But if you do it this way, you are hiding your logic in your configuration.
Right.
And you are probably entering that logic on the GUI of AWS, because you are opening a text field and saying, okay, call this function when this event happens,
right.
and then trigger this and then trigger that. And where is that code?
Right.
It's not in your source control.
Right. And it's really hard to... I must imagine that debugging something like that has to be really hard.
Yeah, so you have like 6 layers of...
Right, abstractions, yeah.
Amazon, whatever, 3-letter thing.
Right.
And it works when it works, but if you have to troubleshoot it, how do you go into this? How do you pick this apart?
I bet part of this is just because we're kind of ignorant of this, right?
Of course.
Because they are saying that, for example, when you do an Amazon Alexa, Hey Alexa thing, it actually calls a Lambda function in the Amazon cloud. So, I mean, it's not unproven technology in any way.
No, not at all.
But yeah, like as I said, like this feels a bit like old man shouting at clouds at the same time as like somewhere the layer cake has to stop, right? We're getting to a point where the number of layers that you don't control is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I bet like software has this tendency to go in ups and downs, right? We want abstraction, we don't want abstraction. Like it feels like we've been here before, right?
Yeah, it's a bit with like every kind of technology. And I meant to say that you can get a lot of the benefits that we heard about in this talk if you do it just the quote unquote normal way. You can write microservices, you can write stateless functions.
Right.
You can build this without a stack of 6 or 7 layers.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, that one. After that, it was a talk by an Apple guy.
Yeah.
And I missed half of this.
Frameworks.
I missed half of this because I had to go to the toilet, and after that, I ended up talking to some of the Conan guys outside instead. And I didn't feel like I was...
No, you weren't missing out. And I have to say, this was... Maybe it just went over my head, but it felt like this was not a very well put together keynote, and I just left. And I saw that many people left, so I kind of felt bad for the guy. At the same time, this is a keynote, so you have to be good.
So instead, we went and sat down in a little room together with Jerry from Bincrafters. And so Bincrafters is the open source community that implements Conan packages for public consumptions. Is basically it. They take popular open source software, packages it in Conan, and makes it available to anyone.
Right.
And he's, I guess, kind of the founder of it.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So it was an interesting talk. Jerry's an interesting guy. I will see if I can get a small interview with him also in the same episode. He has a lot of ideas, that guy.
Yeah, he is very inspired.
Yeah, he's super inspired. It's so fun to see, and at the same time, I feel like, oh man, wait until you've been making software for 10 years and you're going to feel like I felt like the grumpy old man again, and I felt like you
kids. Are a grumpy old man.
Yeah, I am. I know. I give up. I am a grumpy old man. Anyway, it was a really fun talk. I really like talking to Jerry. He's a great guy. And we also talked to Theo. He's also been doing a lot of Conan stuff in the open source environment. So that was that. I think, all the talks with all the Conan community is the thing that is highest ranked for me after this conference.
Yeah.
Actually, we missed the whole thing yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, yes.
Yeah. So after the keynotes yesterday, on Thursday, we sat down in a little room together with the product manager for Conan, the two main developers for Conan.
Luis and
Diego. Great guys. And the rest of the Conan community. So they had invited, I think, 15 people.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so people that are either very active in Conan or that are looking to get into Conan.
Yeah.
And we had a very interesting roadmap discussion.
Yeah, I really like the format. So they just listed potential roadmap items that they are thinking about, and there is a Kahoot app voting. So in each turn, we could vote on how important that particular feature is for us.
Right.
And we also discussed
exactly
those features.
So they presented an item they wanted to add to the roadmap, and we basically had to decide how important it was for us, and then we could summarize in the end what the community felt about the different features. So that was a very interesting way to influence our roadmap. I don't think I've ever done anything quite similar.
No, but it is great. I mean,
right, but I don't think it will scale when Conan becomes bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah,
in the future,
you can do it with much more people.
Right, but it was fun. It was really good, and it was very informative. And by the end, we felt we got a good sense what's coming soon.
Yep.
So that was great. So back to Friday. So we were talking to them. We missed the keynote where they were announcing the new
we missed
JFrog Enterprise Plus. Was that the platform?
We actually missed two keynotes.
Oh, we did? What was the other one?
We missed the Uber one.
Oh, the Uber one. Well, I don't feel too bad about that.
Yeah, well, I know.
And then they had their keynote with the head product guys of Artifactory and JFrog platform, and they introduced that. And we don't know 100% what they were talking about there, except that I got a glimpse of what it is later. It's like they're combining all their different tools into one continuous pipeline for getting the artifact. So this starts when the CI ends. So you build your artifact, it gets uploaded to Artifactory, it gets scanned by their application called X-Ray that looks for security and license violations. And then it gets passed to distribution. And distribution makes it available to all your edge nodes. And then you have both analytics, they called it Insight, I think, and a permission manager on top of that. Yeah. So it was kind of like a one shop for everything thing.
Yeah. So theoretically, we could release by a press of a button, which is a great goal, I think, for us.
And exactly, that is the goal, right?
Yeah.
To be able to get the artifact in, and then you can do all your tests and whatever, and then just press go, and it will go all the way out to the edge.
Yeah. And a big thing for us in this announcement is probably the distribution part.
Yes, I agree. So currently with Artifactory, if you want to use the method for distribution, you have to use their own proprietary cloud CDN.
Yep.
Which is great, but also very expensive because they using Akamai CDN, so it's excellent, but it's also very expensive per download.
Yeah, and it's probably more excellent than a CDN that we need.
Exactly, right, because we're not Netflix, right?
Yeah, we're not under that heavy load.
Right. So what they added is a new component called distribute that can basically is a public server for downloading stuff, but you can host it yourself, and then you can put whatever CDN you want in front of that.
Yeah.
But I did understand that is not shipping as a separate product yet. So you have to buy Enterprise Plus to get that for now.
Yeah.
So it probably will be later down the road when they split that out as a separate component before we can actually use it.
Well, we have lots to do before we can.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely, 100%. But it's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
After lunch, this is probably the best meal I had.
Yeah.
Almost during the whole stay here. That lunch was excellent, I thought.
I agree.
Really good chicken and stuff. Yep, super good. Anyway, on to breakout sessions again. We both went to the J4 Frog Artifactory year in review. So this is the product manager of Artifactory.
Yeah.
They presented basically what we've done so far in 2018 and where the roadmap is going in 2018.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Fine. I felt like it could have been like half the length, and you wouldn't
missed
have
much,
anything.
no.
Yeah. So it was a bit slow for me.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, yeah.
It's also hard. It's hard to say to people. It noticed that he's not a native English speaker, and sometimes it can be really rough to listen to a guy who's not that great at English.
Yeah.
He could definitely make himself explained and so on, but there is words and sentence constructions that gets very confusing sometimes.
Yeah.
But other than that, I had a little chat with him afterwards. You had to go to the next session, but I had a little chat with the product manager afterwards. And he's a great guy. And he was very receptive to my feedback on the product, so that was great. After that, we basically planted our asses in the Conan track for the rest of the day. There was a separate room for Conan presentations.
Yeah, props to the organizers, so we didn't have to jump between rooms.
No, this was really good because it turned out to be more or less the same group stayed in that room for all the talks coming.
Yeah, which is more or less the same group from yesterday's meeting.
More or less. There were a couple of other people as well.
True.
So we saw 3 talks, and then I did 1 talk. But we saw 3 talks. So we saw, first it was Jerry's Bincrafters talk.
Right.
And that was, interesting to see his worldview. I would say, and this has been a theme when we have been discussing with the Conan guys as well, Conan has 2 very different customers.
Yeah.
So it has the open source community where basically the goal is to make Conan into what NPM is for JavaScript, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that requires a certain amount of things.
Yeah.
And which we, as an enterprise customer that controls, we are not using open source components from Bincrafters or from the public repository.
Conan Center.
Yeah, Conan Center. We're doing all the recipes. You and I write all the recipes by hand, more or less, and control the whole toolchain and control the environments it's built in and control the environments it's shipped in. So we don't care that much. The only reason we care about the open source part of Conan is because it's driving adoption of Conan. And the more Conan is used, the more investment will happen in Conan. So that's good for us, right?
Yes.
But it's...
That's an indirect reason for...
Exactly, right. So his talk is interesting. They are doing a lot of work on the open source side, Bincrafters. If you're looking for a C++ manager a package manager, and you just want to use like zlib and OpenSSL, you can most likely 90% of the cases use their packages.
Yeah, so it's a very extensive package collection. I'm also involved with Bincrafters, although I've been pretty lazy. But
well, you have other things to do.
They told me there is one Bincrafter and like 10 other lazy Bincrafters. So one Bincrafter must be Jerry.
Yeah, probably. And Ulines, I think. Is called.
Yeah. Right. He's very active. So it's a great team. They are very helpful and very smart. So if you have any packaging concerns, just go to the CPP link Slack. There is a channel called Bincrafters, and you can talk to them. And also, if you have your own packages that you want to get into a wider adoption, as an open source contribution, go there.
I don't think this podcast is really the right venue for it, but they are looking for grants. I think it's good to say that they want to do more. They want to do even more. They want to become more of like the NPM for CPP. So they are looking for money to host their CI infrastructure, which is extensive, and looking for people to work on a couple of projects that would help them to even do it easier, right? Yeah.
So right now they are being actually sponsored by JFrog. But they kind of hit the ceiling with the CI costs. And they can do more, but they need funding
more money.
For it.
Yeah. Next talk was Odin Holmes. There was very light on Conan. That was like one slide.
It felt like this was a recycled talk from
something else, and then added a slide of Conan. Odin is, I would say, he's very entertaining to listen to. He had an interesting talk. You also notice he was kind of sick, so he was. I guess he probably would have been even more animated if he hadn't had that cough.
Yeah. True.
But that was an interesting talk. He was talking about how they ship
real-time
software. So, and they are doing that in C++, as I understood it.
Yeah.
But they are doing it in a very weird way.
Yeah, so it is super cool engineering, I have to say. So they are shipping drivers that work better than the vendors' drivers because they know the architecture better.
Right.
And they do it in C++. Very, very, very interesting topic. And just shows how much you can stretch C++ to do what you want.
Right.
But again, as you said, it was very light on Conan, and I would have liked to see more of their Conan setup.
Yeah.
Because what he mentioned was interesting.
Yeah.
But he didn't show any of it. He just said, we are using Conan for this.
Basically automating the way that they build, because they have a very complicated build process.
Yeah,
it's a multi-stage build process, basically, and they are automating that with Conan. It sounded very interesting. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to see a bit more.
Yeah.
But as you say, this is probably it was an interesting talk in itself.
Yeah.
It just felt a bit out of place considering the other topics in the room during the sessions, right?
Yeah, and the title, because it was Conanize Your Metal.
Yeah, and it was basically one slide. But nothing bad about that talk. It was not like I felt like it was wasted time or anything. It was fun. Yeah. The next talk was how we modernized our infrastructure using Conan and how to prepare for unforeseen consequences by Reid Horstedler.
Yeah, so this was a very good talk, in my opinion. Although I didn't like the format, the very classical kind of slides where you throw up some lines of text. And
very dense.
Just read it, so
right.
I wouldn't rate the speaker the best, but the topic was very interesting. It was interesting to see that they face the same challenges, and they are actually stuck on the same old version of Conan that we've been stuck on for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was funny to see, actually. Yeah, I said that to him like right before I did my talk, which was the next one, that we basically ran into the exact same problems, and I think we just pushed it a bit further with our solutions than they have.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to see. They basically went through the same kind of rebuild of their build infrastructure that we have gone through. From very snowflakey build machines to a lot of non-automated steps, building unnecessary amounts of code, all that.
Right.
Like, so more or less the same problems that we are trying to solve.
Yes.
But that was it was interesting to hear him talk about it, and we had a lot of overlap in terms of what we were trying to get to. And then it was time for my talk, and this was the last session on the last day of the conference, and the AC was broken in the...
Oh my God.
There were no oxygen at all.
Yes. Yeah, that was very weird, and the humidity was very high. So
it was very high
very
humidity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say anything about my own talk really. Like I felt it went fine.
Yeah, I can say a few things about it if you don't mind.
Yep. What did you think about my talk?
I think it was great.
Thank you.
I think it was the most involved of the bunch that we saw today. It was the most. It wasn't very, very deep into the technical details, but it was the most on topic, I would say. So if we are talking about Conan in that sense,
right.
And I think you're an excellent speaker.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love the format. You have one-line slides, basically a title for each slide.
Yeah.
And I like that because very often when there is a lot of text on the slide,
people start reading out of loud.
People start reading, and the speaker starts reading it.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. So format for my talks are usually one word or one sentence on each slide, and then I have extensive notes for myself to remember what the hell I'm talking about. And then I'm always trying to make sure that there is a story. So there's a setup for the actual technical talk, because usually I think that people that don't do talks that often miss that bit. So there is just a lot of technical mumbo jumbo and no context for it.
Yeah, no clear line of thought from A to B.
Exactly. No, I think it's fine. And I think all these talks are going to be available online.
Yeah, I think so. They recorded it, and last year's talks were...
Right, so my talk was 45 minutes, I think. I actually managed the time, I think, exactly.
Yeah,
so
perfectly.
Yeah, so that will be online. I'll probably post it to my Twitter if someone wants to see me talk about how we implemented Conan at Plex.
Yeah. It wasn't very deep technical, so it's not some dry explanation. It's very entertaining, and I love the jokes, even though I read them before we talk, because you asked me to give my opinion.
Oh shit, we're supposed to be down in the bar right now, so...
Oh, okay. We are pretty much done.
Yeah, this was the last talk, the last session. Overall, I would say Swampup gets a really high grade from me. I've been on a lot of conferences, and I think it's because it's so relevant to what we do, right?
Yeah.
We could go to basically every single session and get something
out of
related to what we are working with.
I agree.
And then be able to have that access to the team that is working on Conan and Artifactory.
Yeah.
Was excellent, right?
Yeah.
I think we got our points across really well.
Yes.
And I think that if we look at the roadmap and how we are able to influence that, I think we're going to be in a very happy state when everything gets implemented.
Right. So, and also, I think we can say thank you for the organizers, because this was very, very excellent.
Well run.
Executed.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much to Yayfrog for inviting me to talk. Also, it's been my first talk in quite some time, so I really enjoyed it to come here and present, and I hope they invite me again sometime. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you for joining me and talking about the conference.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Plex for sponsoring my ticket.
Exactly. Yeah, it was good that we could get you out here also, because I feel like we get more out of it than if I would have been here alone as well. So, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to see if I can get some other interviews as well to put into this episode and release it later. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
So I'm here with...
Jerry Wiltse.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
I'm an open source C++ developer focusing a lot on Conan, package manager, and our open source work under Bincrafters team.
Right. So you've also been here at the Swampup conference in Napa. So what do you think about the event?
Yes, this was a very unique event, one I've never seen the likes of, and I enjoyed it very much. I met some really interesting people, saw some great talks. The weather was amazing. A little chillier than I expected,
Right.
but overall, remarkable conference.
Right. The location is gorgeous.
Yeah, one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you talk about? What was your talk about?
It was about the Bincrafters team. It was not very technical. It was more of a historical kind of publicity piece about what we've done, informing the community, the people who don't know about us yet, what we've done, the challenges we faced, what we plan for the future,
Right.
and kind of how we got into Conan, and just really informing people about what to expect from us in the future, and why Conan is great.
Okay. And what is Bincrafters?
So we're just a group of Conan packagers who banded together in the early days of 2017 when there was kind of a lull in new packages hitting the central repository. And so we all wanted to do packages, and the new model with Bintray was every developer had their own repository,
Right.
unlike everyone putting everything in a shared repository.
Which was a bit of a mess before, so...
It was a mess before, and what we went to now was certainly safer, more distributed.
But slower.
Yes, and a lot less ergonomic for testing other people's packages.
Yeah. You have to search them out in a
right.
totally different way.
Yeah, interestingly, a guy created a website from the community. I wish I remembered his handle.
Oh, the search page.
Yeah. It's a separate search page. It pulls the Bintray APIs, and it makes it much easier to find Conan repos. But still, the fundamental problem doesn't change. The more remotes you add in your Conan registry list,
right,
the more unmanageable it becomes, and the more unsure you are when you ask for a package.
Right, that you get the right package.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we didn't like that problem, and we looked at Yum, we looked at Debian and the histories, and RepoForge was kind of a third-party repository for RPMs
Right.
that was separate from the official canonical Red Hat package repository.
Right.
But it was largely viewed as a close second, like it was the supplemental.
You could basically trust it to be somewhat quality in there and not just Wild West.
It was moderated, not by Red Hat, a big company, but it was moderated
by the open source community, basically.
Right. And it was necessary in just so many cases. There were tons of packages there that weren't in this moderated central repo, which had a high barrier to entry, which was good. But there's a different use case there.
Right.
So we thought that was a valid concept and strategy for solving the gap. And we wanted to do that for the Conan repos, is kind of have this quasi-central repo that people, wouldn't add.
And that would add a bit of ergonomics, as you say, and a bit of speed for getting the packages out that couldn't maybe fit in the public central repository.
Yeah, someday, once they were tested and vetted.
Right.
And how do you test and vet them?
It's a staging area, basically.
Exactly. That's how we viewed it when we started. And that it has the function it has served pretty successfully, we feel, based on the feedback we got and the number of downloads from Conan Center.
So you started in 2017.
Yeah.
So it's been a year. So what do you feel about the progress made? And I see that there is a lot of new packages in the Bincrafts almost, weekly.
Yeah.
So what do you feel yourself about the progress you made in a year?
The progress was really unbelievable at first. It kind of came out with a bang. We did Boost, and then which is big.
Which is a hard project to do, right?
It is. And it drew a lot of publicity. And off the success of that, we were able to convince a number of individual packagers to come join us and put their packages in our repos instead of their personal. They got on board very quickly, so we had this almost exponential growth until December. And then there was a lot of work to be done when Conan 1.0 was released, so we had to refactor a lot of stuff. So that was a lull. But now things are starting to pick back up. in addition to getting new packages in Bincrafters, a lot of our packages have now started to be accepted into Conan Center, which is like another growth indicator. And now we're up to, I think half the packages in Conan Center are from Bincrafters. So it's a huge milestone for us. And so I think the progress continues. It has slowed down a little bit because we've lost some resources. We had full-time packagers, and now we don't anymore. If we want to get back to that, but things are a little slower now. But it's still good.
So who should care about Bincrafters? Like, if I'm going out and wanting to build my own C++ program and using a couple of libraries, is I'm the target audience, or who's the target audience here?
Certainly the individual developer who is not encumbered by enterprise security concerns, large DevOps concerns, anyone who's writing a new library. So if you think you have a good idea for a formatting library, a parser or something, Conan is a center, and Bincrafters packages are a reasonable and safe way to get open source libraries as dependencies. Also, I think students coming out of university, and I think academics, it's a great platform for that. And I think organizations looking to do pilots to try to sell
proof
Conan.
of concept, basically.
Proof of concept, We had 4 people here from 4 different companies who are currently dabbling in Conan. They said either we used Bincrafters to get started, to bootstrap our stuff, and now we're sort of rewriting some of the recipes we want to customize, or they came to us and said, we're trying to get into Conan. Is Bincrafters a good way for us to learn the ropes? I said absolutely. Start with our packages, then do a couple of your own, and then talk about it in your team. And so it really seems like it's paying off in kind of additional ways we didn't foresee.
So I think that what's been becoming apparent after our talks here, because we spent a lot of time talking, just not on the conference, but around during dinners and stuff like that. And we represent 2 very different use cases of Conan, I think, because you're representing like the open source, like the big net that is supposed to try to catch people to start using Conan. And I represent the more enterprisey way, right? We control everything, right? That is the thing for us. I think it's funny that we're, that how similar our struggles are. I saw that especially when I was watching your talk. Like you're having the same scalability problem we have times 20,
right?
But we're still struggling with the same problems.
Sure, yeah, that's true. We talked about how different our use cases were. But there is that thread of common problems, common logistical challenges.
Which is more like a legacy of the C++ language than it is of Conan itself,
That's
right?
True. Yeah, definitely. And I think it shows why Conan is able to succeed in both use cases is because it was written in such a way that it tackles problems just generally enough to work for the 2 cases, but with specific enough tools to accommodate your unique cases in the enterprise, which I'm now getting to because now I'm working in an enterprise code base in addition to the open source. So now I'm seeing Conan.
Are you using Conan in that environment?
Yeah,
as well?
that's my primary directive is to package all the things in this company. And very
fun,
similar
right?
to Plex.
When companies starting to pick it up as well, like it becoming a real factor, and that was definitely not the case when I started working with Conan, right? It was unknown, right?
Yeah.
But now you see all the companies that was in those talks and the problems they are dabbling with, and it's like, man, you're going to love Conan, right?
Yeah, that's right. They are, because I can tell you the ugly things people had to do before. If they can justify it in their organization and get the momentum, it will feel good as they do it. That's the promise, and it's true.
Do you want to highlight something special that you saw during Swampup? A talk or a conversation you had, or something that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, there were 2 Bincrafters here, and then the Conan team, and you, and also some of the community members who are tight in the feedback loop. And really, more than the keynote talks, more than individual sessions, I enjoyed the personal time.
Absolutely.
And you don't get that at many conferences.
No, you don't.
And outside of conferences, you don't really get it much at all.
It felt like a conference inside a conference as well, right? We were here as the Conan community, which, I thought was very productive from both the roadmap discussion and like all the discussions afterwards and like exchanging all our different problems and ideas and solutions.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that is 100% what I'm coming away with here as well. Like this was such an excellent event for doing just that.
Yeah, right? For networking in a focused way on a specific topic, Conan and these problems, getting together and just breaking out and taking the time to hear each other's problems, even though what we really want to do is ask for help solving our problems, listening to each other.
We're able to solve problems collectively, basically.
Yes, yeah. You have to listen in order to really learn.
I think the future for Conan is really bright. It feels that way, and it feels like every month it just keeps getting better, and you see more people coming online and engaging with the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, I and after this event I feel extra energized.
Yeah, me too. Very motivated.
For sure. So to round this up, Bincrafters, you need a little help, right?
Yes, that's right. We posted in the slides, which you can get online, some of the links to where people can donate now. But beyond just donation and support, which is still a need, we are looking for official sponsorship through one of any number of OSS grants.
Yeah.
We found some grant programs recently. We know there's more out there. We know there's a diverse array of reasons those grants are out there. And so we're looking for people who know about the grants or are interested in maybe starting a grant. We want to talk to people about how we can get dedicated funding to do a series of projects that we need to do internally and create a series of packages that we know are top priorities and people need. And so we're looking for that. We have people who are ready to come on as full-time committers, and it doesn't take that much money to pay a full-time committer for 6 months.
No.
So we're looking for those grants, and so we'd love for people to reach out to us at Bincrafters.
If you're interested in that.
Yeah.
And also people who package the actual software as well, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we have, we'd love to talk to library authors who think Conan is cool and they want our help creating their packages or, there's a lot of people in the ecosystem we'd love to talk to.
So if you want to send people to one URL, where should people go to find out more?
Bincrafters.github.io is our blog. It's got links to our Twitter, GitHub, Open Collective, a list of our great contributors who we are ever grateful for. I mean, I'm here talking about it as, the leader of Bincrafters team, but there are people who do more work than me and deserve a lot more recognition than I ever
There's always
should.
a team, right?
Yeah.
There's always a team.
And they don't get enough thanks. So if people want to see them, I hope they advertise for themselves on their resumes and stuff. I did the Bincrafters work. So yeah, if you want to see anything about us or our members, go there and you can reach out to us via email or Twitter. And I'd be happy to have one-on-one email conversations with anyone who has information about that kind of thing.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me.
Thank you, Tobias.
Yeah, and thank you for being here and being a part of the Conan community and, pushing, I would say, like, sometimes it feels like we have opposite goals, but I do think that in the end, both goals are just super beneficial for both of us.
I agree. I think there's enough common ground that we could, if we focus on those common problems, our time will never be wasted.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It was an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having you. Thank you.
That was great talk.
Yeah. So I'm here with Diego. What's your full name?
Hi, Tobias. I'm Diego Rodriguez-Losada.
Yeah.
I'm from Spain and I'm one of the Conan founders.
Yes.
And now part of JFrog.
JFrog, yeah. And we talked before.
Oh, yeah. It's the second time for
Kodsnack. Yes.
Kodsnack
You
podcast.
remember?
Yeah. I remember. Of course, I remember. It was a great talk with you.
And Christopher.
And Christopher. It was a very interesting talk.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Christopher is not here today. Yeah. But anyway, so we're here at Swampup 2018. And you're now a part of JFrog. Yeah. So I think this is a difference between now and the last time we talked. So what do you feel what did you enjoy about Swampup 2018? Do you think it was a good event? How do you feel about like the Conan stuff here?
Yeah, I feel really good. I was a bit, of course, nervous before the conference to see what people are coming to our events and everything. But after all, it has been amazing because of two things. First, we have been able to gather like the feedback of many users.
Yeah.
That they get to know us the last year here in Swampup.
Yeah.
And during the last year. So now, this year, we have met a lot of people that are already deploying Conan, are using Conan.
Yeah.
And they gave lots of feedback. And this feedback is exactly what we need to keep improving.
Yeah.
So that's very great. And on the other hand, we also sense a big sense of community. Yeah, so the Conan community, there is a good community around Conan.
Yeah.
It's not that people come into the Conan talks.
Right.
Because they are interested in Conan. It's people that feel part of something and feel they are contributing to the open source community in Conan Center, people contributing to Conan, and that we are all building together something that is very necessary and cool, and we love it. It's something that we are proud to be part of it, and that has been the amazing,
I agree. So this is my first Swampup, but it's also the first time I meet the rest of the Conan community, except for Tamás, then of course,
of course,
which we kind of hired from the Conan community. But it's been, if there is one thing I take away from this event, which amazing event by the way, really good. But if it's one thing I take away, it's all the discussions I've had with the rest of the Conan community. And,
exactly.
Right, the discussions with you and with Jerry and with Theo and
I agree.
And it feels like we all have a really common goal, right? Pushing Conan as the primary package manager for C and C++. I think it's almost 1.5, 2 years ago since we talked the last time.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. How do you feel about the last 1.5 year in Conan's trajectory? Do you feel good about it? How Conan is developing and your new home at JFrog and
Yeah, I feel good. I think we have been evolving pretty good. From the very beginning, we have tried to be very responsive to the community.
Yeah.
So even when we didn't know if this was good or bad, if the community was pushing us to it, we did it. So I think this year we have been continuing this trend, and it has been working very well. So within JFrog, it has been very, very good because it's still an open source project.
Yeah.
And we keep doing basically the same thing. It's just getting the feedback from the community and trying to provide the best tools. So nothing has actually changed, but the fact that now we have a huge ecosystem for integrating with other technologies. For example, we have Artifactory.
Right.
So instead of our Conan server, that was very limited without a web UI and the scalability was really poor.
Yeah.
Now we have Artifactory.
Yeah.
That integrates with all the technologies
and Artifactory is the premier artifact management tool on the market right now. So if there is somewhere you want to be in terms of that, it's Artifactory, right? Even if you were not a part of our JFrog, you would still want Artifactory to have a Conan integration.
Absolutely. It's the only way to go because every programmer is going to manage artifacts, and you want to put them somewhere. Where?
Right.
Artifactory is the answer. I mean, there is no other option out there.
Sure.
So it's definitely the perfect match that Conan and Artifactory we go together. Yeah. And of course, it's only the beginning because then with X-Ray and with Bintray, of course, Bintray is now also a very important part of
Conan.
Of Conan because of the open source community. They can put the packages there and they can make them available for the wider community. Yeah. And otherwise, what is the way to scale? Because in the past we had Conan Center. No, sorry, we had Conan.io. Yeah. It was a single repo. Everybody was pushing, uploading to the same place together. So it was a huge mess. Yeah. Now everyone can have their own remotes, their own repos. Exactly. And everything, so we can control that and things are improving a lot regarding open source packages.
And then you have groups like Bincrafters that are doing an amazing job on the open source front. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to talk to you because one of the red lines and one of the discussions that has been coming up once and again during this conference has been this thing that Conan basically have two different users. Yeah. We have the open source community, which I think is, spearheaded by the Bincrafters. Yeah. And they are pushing for Conan to be basically the NPM for C and C++, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And then we have people like me that is interested in owning the whole stack, right? Not just a small piece of it, but do not want to rely on third parties to make the packages for us. We want to do them ourselves. And we want to have total control of the toolchain, of the builds, of the release and everything, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how do you feel like someone who's trying to navigate this? Like, do you feel like this is a big problem for Conan, or is this just the way that things are? Or?
No, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's the way that things are. But it's the way that things are because there is still a gap.
Right.
Because the C and C++ communities, they are huge and they have different needs. So as opposed to the other languages,
right?
That there were like the package managers started in the open source community first.
Yeah.
They got traction there, and then they started to be spread in the companies and the enterprise.
Right.
Here has been the journey has been different because we started, and companies were out in Conan before the open source.
Right,
and then it made this artificial gap that is narrowing, but it's still not close. Right. So until the open source authors they start to really maintain and create the packages themselves, at that moment, companies will be very comfortable to get in not the binaries, but the recipes from the original authors, the original maintainers, and then we'll be integrating them into their work, into their flow that they will fully own. That won't change. Companies will go...
And the binary generation of those packages will still...
Yeah, under the control of the companies.
So, I think this is right. I think this tracks 100% with what, my feelings are about it. Yeah. Because I think we need open source side from a purely, self perspective, my perspective here, right? I think we need the open source community because the open source community is going to push Conan to cast a wider net. Yeah. And that only means that JFrog and other companies are going to invest more into Conan. And that is only going to be beneficial for me as a user on the enterprise side.
Yeah, exactly. So, as always, investing in open source sometimes is not like a short-term benefit.
Right, it's a long-term.
It's a long-term.
Yeah.
So if we keep nurturing the open source community and they keep creating packages, then also our knowledge about how to create packages in many different conditions evolves, and Conan improves. Yeah. And then when companies they
adds new capabilities is what you're saying right
exactly. So probably companies they are not realizing right now about I don't know, for example, vulnerabilities. If we are able to, the open source community grows big enough, and then we add capabilities of scanning for vulnerabilities, and we have the database for that, then companies can connect to that and know if their OpenSSL version is outdated or as a vulnerability or something. Right. But this only happens if the open source community and packages gets enough critical mass.
Yeah, and absolutely.
So, but this is a long-term goal. So
for sure. So this was actually, for me, it felt like it was a conference in a conference, right?
Yeah.
Because there was this whole Swampup thing going on, and there was some interesting keynotes, and some interesting breakout sessions. And, we are a heavy user of Artifactory outside Conan as well. So for a lot of the sessions, very interesting talks and new features in coming to Artifactory and so on. But it also felt like there was this extra community conference that was Conan conference, right?
Yeah.
And it was amazing today when we had basically 5 talks. Was it 5?
5 talks.
5 talks in a row, all about Conan.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to hear people's different perspective and people's different problems and people's similar problems, right?
Right.
And have that sense of community, as you say. And I think also there was a lot of people not using Conan today that was getting a view on how that could be in the future as well.
Yeah. And they will be using Conan because I think they liked what they saw today. And they saw that we were responsive to each other, and we listened, and we evolved. And I love your talk
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was. I think it's brilliant. First, because of the humor. I really appreciate humor, and it was so funny. Yeah, but also because it explained very well how things have happened. Yeah. And say, hey, we come here very early. We were missing many things. Right. It was not perfect.
No.
And I think it's very important to say it was not perfect. It is not perfect as today.
No.
So the only way to make it better
is to improve, right?
Yeah. So we started to harass those guys. Right. So they implemented what we wanted. And
absolutely.
I think this is exactly what we need. So they realized, okay, maybe I'm going to start using Conan. I'm going to have issues. No problem. There's a community there. The maintainers and the core will respond to it, and there is a pathway of these issues.
And showing somehow also like there have been people before you, and they have solved a lot of these problems. And when they ran into problems that they couldn't solve themselves, they got help from you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They got backing from JFrog to actually solve this. Right, so I think that it gave a very, like, looking at all those talks together, it gave a very positive sign of Conan as a product and as a community.
I think so.
Yeah, and that it is a growing and vibrant community with smart people in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the good thing is that it's not that just two guys developing a product, but there is an evolving creator that improves, and especially in the CPP Lang Conan channel, there are more than 300 people.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm not in there, so
yeah. So it's because now Jerry from Bincrafters said it very clearly. Hey, these guys cannot do everything.
No.
So the good thing is, okay, but there is a Conan channel there. You ask there, and there will be people from everywhere in the world that they are responding to your questions, like, typically very fast.
Yeah.
So, and that's the good thing.
Community helping community, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to scale a package manager for C++. There are 4 million developers of C on C++. And so the only way to scale this and reach a big community if there is community supporting it.
Yeah.
So I really think it is happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the future, and especially after the event here, I see the future for Conan very bright, because it feels like we're having a really good discussion, right? We're improving the areas, and we're looking at the roadmap, and we can see like all these things that still bothers me are still, being addressed. Not maybe the specifics yet, but we know that this is not falling by the wayside. And then it feels so energizing to be in that community, because everyone wants it to push it forward and make it succeed and make it better, right?
Yeah.
And I do feel the same. It's not only the community, but I do feel the same from the people from JFrog I've been talking about. Like, they are also very excited about making Conan better, right?
Yeah. Since the very first moment we talked with JFrog, there was kind of synchronized. I mean, we could feel that we were
a good fit, right?
Yeah, we were a good fit, and we were aligned, and the way of doing things, and knowing that Conan should be open source and should keep being open source.
Yeah.
And the way it should approach the community and talk with the community and build the community, it was very clear from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that is working very well, because we are, let's say we are honest, and we are truthful about what Conan is. We are not trying to make it like a paid product or something.
Right.
It's just what it is. It's an open source project, and
right. It was amazing to me, like the first opening keynote by your CEO.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Shlomi.
Like the third slide, you have the Conan logo there. Doesn't that feel amazing?
Yeah. So one of the things that is really great at JFrog is that you feel very appreciated, very respected,
part of the team,
very respected, part of the team. Even if we are not in one of the main headquarters of JFrog, we are remote,
Madrid,
remote, and we are a small team there. All the time, they make you feel that you are part of something, and you are part of JFrog.
Yeah.
We are not just some remote crazy guys in Spain. We are part of JFrog,
and I mean, dedicating a whole track to just Conan shows you the same thing, right? It's dedication from JFrog. And
it's a big investment JFrog is doing, because they strongly believe that we are onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And even and even if this is just an open source project, it is not just an open source project. It's something more.
Yeah.
And I think they can see it, and is the reason they are also proud, and they announcing and they invest on us.
Yeah.
And they take care of us, and it's because we are aligned.
Amazing. Yep. All right. So to round it up, is there anything from the conference these 2 days that you want to highlight, especially that you found very interesting or very funny or something like that? Was there something that caught your eye that you want to kind of highlight especially?
I would say that the best, very, very best, is meeting you. I've been looking forward to meeting you in person, and of course
we've been talking about it for a long time, for sure.
Yeah. So it has been so great.
Yeah.
So I can only say thanks very much for coming.
Yep,
and
thank you for having me. Yep.
And looking forward to meeting again.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much for being on the podcast as well.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Yeah, talk to you later.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.